Welcome back to snowy Russia. I'm an Englishman. I've been living here for 5 to 6 months now, and I want to tell you the real cost of my living expenses here. How much does it cost for me to live in this country? So I'm going to break it down: transport, rent, food, everything. So stick around. I wonder how much people think it costs to live in Russia nowadays, especially with all the sanctions and everything that's going on. And one thing I want to start off with here are these icicles. Check these out. These are deadly. It's so funny to me to see these deadly things hanging off the top of a roof in Russia. I think these icicles must have done some damage to someone at some point. Pretty crazy. I just thought I'd mention that because I saw them yesterday as I was walking to the shop, and I thought, bloody hell, I did not realise that. I've been here for 5 months. Well, obviously it's only been snowing for about 1 month, 2 months, but I was like, blimey, I've never seen such massive deadly icicles in my life before. I forgot to wear my hat. I need to put my bloody hat on. Ooh. Whoa, that's better. One thing I do want to mention about living expenses is I don't live a really exciting life. I don't need to go out eating all the time. I don't wear expensive clothes because I don't need all that stuff. So everyone's living expenses is going to be a little bit different from one another's, right? But I live a quite simple life and I'm quite happy with that. Let's get into the cost breakdown of everything while I walk around this beautiful country. Here's your average Russian train station. Well, at least outside of Moscow, at least. So, let's buy a return ticket to Moscow. Yeah, 278 rubles. That's what, I'll put it on screen, it's like £2.50. To go to Moscow, it's like a 45-minute train journey. I think in England it's £15 to the centre of London. Well, not to the centre, but to the main London station. So it's £30 in total. Here, £2.50. Yeah, I'm not sure if I said already, but I live 45 minutes from the capital, London, in England, where I did live there. So this is about the same distance travelled. So it's quite crazy how I can buy a ticket for £2.50 here, roughly, but £32 again. I'll put it on screen, but it's crazy. Like I say, I don't use transport a lot because I don't need to, unless I'm going to work. I don't have to use the trains, but I'll put it into the expenses here and it will all be revealed at the end. But in general, transport here in Russia is cheap. I'm not sure what it's like running a car. I'm not sure how expensive petrol is, but again, this is my real cost of living in Russia. The next thing I want to touch on is phone bill, right? My phone bill costs me 700 rubles a month. So let me know if you think that's cheap. I think that's cheap. I can't even remember what it's for, but I know it's a lot of data. It's data that I don't even use. Yeah, I don't use enough data to actually warrant this phone deal, but it's more than enough. I think it's 100 gigabytes of data or something. I'll put it on the screen, but again, I don't really use my phone a lot either. So, but yeah, 700 rubles. I think in England it's again £30. Just look at this place. I just love the snow so much. And Russia looks completely different when there's no snow as well. They actually have seasons here in Russia. They actually have a summer, unlike England. They actually have a winter, like England, but it's a consistent weather schedule, if that makes sense. In England, you never know what you're going to get. Are you going to get snow? Are you going to get rain? Are you going to get sun? And when the sun's out, it's too hot, or, you know. But I just love this country, man. Oh, feels so good to be here. Feels so good. Let's talk about healthcare. Healthcare is free in Russia, which many people don't know. However, I believe the healthcare is free only for the citizens and permanent residents, or just residents of Russia. So if you're here on a different visa, you don't have access to that and you'll have to go private. I'm here on a shared values visa, so I'm a temporary resident as of today. But I still choose to go private just for convenience. I have asthma, so I go for a 3-month checkup and I pay, I believe, £33 an appointment. So if you break that down, that's £11 a month to visit, you know, a doctor. And I do have an insurance here if, you know, anything catastrophic happens. But I don't know, if there's Russians in the comments, let us know in the comments below. Is it true that you use private healthcare more often than like the standard healthcare? Because I believe that's what I've been told. And during my experience of using the Russian healthcare system, it hasn't been overcrowded, but again, that is because obviously I've used private healthcare, and that typically tends to be, you know, a little bit better, you know, not as crowded and so on. But I have used it in England as well, and I can't really say that it was the same. I still had to wait a little bit longer. But, you know, for instance, when I used the private healthcare here, I had an appointment. I had a selection of appointments that I could choose from. In England, they just give you one that, you know, suits. And yeah, it's just interesting to compare the different styles of healthcare, because in England we're told how great the NHS is, but I don't know about that. I'm not sure if you can see on the camera, but it really is snowing a lot right now. I think there's been a mini snowstorm in Russia recently. But anyway, I'm just going to speak about the luxuries that I have in my life, and then I'm going to go onto the big three expenses. So one of my luxuries is the gym, and that's it. I don't really have any other luxuries in my life. The gym in this area, I believe, is 5,500 rubles, which is bloody expensive, especially compared to other gyms in Russia, because I know that's expensive, but in this area, that is the only gym. So you have to pay it, basically. And yeah, luxuries, I don't know, what other luxuries do I have? I don't really drink a lot. Again, I thought this through. And that's it. Look at the snow. Look at the snow, it's beautiful. I don't know, snow makes me feel so alive, like, and cold weather in general. Love it. Anyway, let's talk about food. I would say, aside from rent, food is my biggest outgoing, and that's because 1, I go to the gym, so I need to be fueled up, but 2, I also make videos on TikTok about Russian food, and 3, obviously you need to eat to survive. So I would say it's going to be my biggest outgoing aside from rent. But before I talk about that, I want to quickly show you guys how I get my water for the week. I've only got one bottle on me today, a 5-litre bottle, but this is how I get it. I'm walking up to this little cube station here. This is a water station. So I literally just get my water out of my bag. You can see how much snow there is, look. And I just get my water bottle and put it in the station. And once it's in there, I have to pay. And where's my wallet? Here it is. So 5 litres. There we go. Sometimes the card reader isn't great. It's not working today. Well, that one wasn't working for some reason. Sometimes the card reader doesn't work on that one, but thankfully there's one literally 2 minutes away, so I'll go to that one, and yeah, we'll get water there. So I've arrived at the next water station. So 5 litres. Then we wait for it to load. I can't read it though. Start. And that's it, that's it. And that costed 35 rubles for 5 litres. So food shopping, I'll put the number on screen. The average that I spend basically for an order a week. Sometimes I order food, sometimes I go out to the shop and get it myself. But you can see it on screen, 37,000 rubles. That equates to about £34, 5 pence. And let's just bump it up a little bit, because obviously sometimes I buy extra things and don't keep track of it. So let's just say £40 a week, so £200 a month for food, which I don't know if that's good, I don't know if that's bad, but considering I literally don't do anything extravagant in my life, I pretty much work, I go to the gym and eat food and make videos on food and so on, I think that's okay. £200 a month on food. Let me know in the comments, maybe that should be a little bit more, maybe that should be less, I don't know. I don't really know. But that's how much I spend on food per month, basically, give or take. So let's talk about rent, okay? I pay 38,000 rubles a month for my apartment here outside of Moscow, in the Moscow Oblast. So I've been told that's very cheap, which I believe it's £346 per month. People, you know, Russian people have told me that they're shocked about how cheap I've got that apartment for, but I don't know any better. That's literally what I pay. I'm not saying a false number. That's what I pay per month. But my theory as to why the rent is so cheap, in my opinion, I don't know. Again, discussion in the comment sections below. Russia has one of the highest ownership percentages in the whole of Europe. Is that why? Is that why, you know, you can charge so cheap for rent? Or at least not in Moscow. Moscow, you know, the center of Moscow. Anyway, from rent, that leads me on to utilities and bills. My bills in Russia, yeah, my utilities, my gas, heating, electric, and so on. Water, yeah, hot and cold water. 2,500 rubles a month. Crazy. Sometimes I can't believe that. But the reason why it's so cheap is because the local government pays for your heating. It pays for your electricity. That's why it's so cheap, and I can't honestly believe, I can't believe that. It's ridiculous how cheap that is. Honestly shocked at how cheap that is. Like, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it, especially compared to England, how expensive bills are. It's just ridiculous. Anyway, that's how cheap it is in Russia for utilities. And that leads me on to my Wi-Fi, yeah? My Wi-Fi is 1,000 rubles a month. Why are things so cheap here? I mean, maybe it's not cheap to the average Russian, but coming from England, obviously there's economical differences. But still, sometimes the economical differences in the country, it still doesn't add up. Like, it doesn't weigh up evenly. It's ridiculous. So I'm back home now, and pick any Englishman in the whole entire world and put him in my apartment here. The apartment will be, you know, the same price, but their lifestyle will be completely different. Again, you might think I have a boring life. I work, I go to the gym. That's it, pretty much. And if there's anything I want to do, I'll do it on the off chance. But I live a very simple life. That's it. I don't have a lot of fun in other people's eyes. Going to the gym's fun for me, right? And that's my therapy and all that type of stuff. But that's pretty much it. I don't have a Netflix subscription. I don't have any of all these other things. I watch YouTube. YouTube's free. So that really is my cost of living. Tell me if you're surprised about that. Tell me if if you think that's pretty standard, and compare it to yourselves. And as well, I have Russian subscribers. Tell me, like, am I lucky or what? I'm very interested because I have some people from Siberia. I don't know how people live in Siberia. Obviously the climate's a little bit different, but I don't know what rent is like in Siberia. I don't know what utilities like in Siberia, because obviously the climate's much colder. I'm interested to know these things. I am looking to relocate as well. So again, things are going to change in the future. So we'll see. That doesn't mean that I'm not happy here. What I mean by relocate is relocate in Russia. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know if you think that's cheap, if you think that's overpriced, if you're shocked, if you're, this is what you expected. Let me know in the comments below. Compare it to your living standards. Do you feel like you're paying way too much for heating and electricity and so on in your country? Because I do know a lot of English people think they're paying way too bloody much. That's life, unfortunately. It is what it is. What can you do? Thank you very much for watching. See you on the next video.